Hey wrestling fans, welcome to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 231. Thank you for tuning in wherever you may be right now, whether you're listening to the audio podcasts or you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, unfortunately doing things a little different tonight because YouTube has gone and changed the live stream setup a little bit since the last time I've been on. Normally I would do this as a live stream as I record the audio version of the podcast. But like I said, YouTube has changed the live stream setup and I'm too dumb to figure it out. So I'm just recording the video as the same time I am recording the podcast right now, and this episode is gonna have a couple recaps featuring Impact Wrestling, and gonna start off this past Saturday night with their pay-per-view Hard to Kill, which had a lot of buzz going into this pay-per-view. As you know, this is some of the most attention Impact has gotten in some time with this working relationship with AEW right now. There were a lot of people looking forward to this pay-per-view. I was definitely one of them. And then we start off, now we have, went to the wrong notes, sorry. The pre-show match, we see Brian Myers defeat Josh Alexander, and then the main pay-per-view card starts. We have the reuniting Decay, Crazy Steve, and Rosemary taking on Tennille Dashwood and Caleb with a K in tag team action. Decay gets the win when Crazy Steve pins Caleb 8 minutes 40 seconds. Next up on Hard to Kill is an old school rules tag team match. And it is Violent by Design. Eric Young with Diener and Joe Doring defeating Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, and Cousin Jake when Young pins Jake in this one at 9 minutes 38 seconds. And we have the finals of the tournament to crown the new Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Champions. And Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, now known as Fearful and Flava, defeat Havoc and Nevaeh to become the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions when Hogan pins Nevaeh 8 minutes 45 seconds. Very good match in this one. I thought all four ladies in this match worked very well. Good match here. And hopefully they use these Knockouts tag team titles a lot better than the last time they had them. Ace Austin makes his way to the ring along with Madman Fulton, and he wants to be added to the X Division Championship match. And Scott D'Amore comes out and says he will have a match, but not for the X Division Championship. And his opponent is none other than the debuting Matt Cardona, making his Impact Wrestling debut. And This one only lasts 2 minutes 26 seconds. Madman Fulton gets involved and attacks Cardona, causing a disqualification. The X Division Championship is up next. Triple threat match. The champion Manik, Rohit Raju, and Chris Bay. This one was a very entertaining match. All three men left it out in the ring in this one. But it is Manik retaining, pinning Rohit. 13 minutes 51 seconds. Once again, very good match. I was impressed by all three guys. And next up on Hard to Kill, the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship is on the line as the champion Deonna Purrazzo defeats the challenger Taya Valkyrie with the Venus de Milo to get the win via submission. 11 minutes 32 seconds. Another really good match on this pay-per-view. And I have continued to be impressed with Deonna Purrazzo, who, in my opinion, is probably the most improved wrestler 2020, and there's no wonder why she was voted Wrestler of the Year for 2020 in Impact Wrestling. Next up is the Barbed Wire Massacre match, and this one's done a little different than the previous Barbed Wire Massacre matches with Abyss and Sabu, and Abyss and Judas Messias, and then LAX, now known as Proud and Powerful in AEW, and OVE. Instead of the ropes being taken down and the barbed wire being put in place, one side of the ropes was wrapped in barbed wire. One side of the ring had a cage wrapped with barbed wire, and then the other side had some barbed wire boards and a barbed wire table, and these two definitely put it all out in there. Great match. Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan. And in the end, it is Eddie Edwards hitting the Boston Knee Party into a barbed wire chair for the win at 19 minutes. Definitely, if for some reason you missed the pay-per-view, well, honestly, I recommend checking out the whole show, but if you can only watch one match, this should definitely be one of them. And definitely worth checking out. And it is time for the main event of the evening. The main event everyone in the wrestling world has been talking about. The AEW World Champion Kenny Omega teaming up with the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, which was originally supposed to take on the Motor City Machine Guns and Rich Swann, but it was found out over the weekend that Alex Shelley would not be able to compete at Hard to Kill, so Moose was put in as a replacement to team with Chris Sabin and Impact World Champion Rich Swann. Very good match in this one, though. Probably one of Moose's best matches I have ever seen, to be honest. All six guys in this match, I should say, worked real well together. Omega, Gallows, Anderson, and was really impressed with Moose. Like I said, Sabin and Rich Swann were all great in this match. In the end, it is Omega hitting the one-winged angel on Rich Swann to score the win for his team at 20 minutes 33 seconds. That was Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, and overall, this was a thumbs up show in my opinion, and definitely enjoyed it. I'm sure you will too. If for some reason you missed it, definitely recommend checking out the replay, whether your local pay-per-view provider or Fight.tv. Either watch Fight.tv on your computer or whatever, or download the app on your iPhone or your Android. Definitely worth checking out the replay of Hard to Kill. And now, at this time, I'm going to do another quick recap of tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV. And we start things off with highlights from Hard to Kill. And then our first match of the evening, Eric Young defeats Rhino via submission. The Good Brothers come to the ring to cut a promo and saying they're going to be the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions for as long as they want to be. And then they are interrupted by Chris Sabin. And he says since the Machine Guns never lost they weren't pinned in the match to lose their tag team titles, they deserve a rematch. And he says Alex Shelley may not be there, but he does have a partner, and it is none other than the Cowboy James Storm. But we are another interruption, and it is from AEW, Matt Hardy and Private Party, and Matt Hardy gets them a match with Sabin and Storm, and the winners will be the number one contenders for the Impact World Tag Team Championships. Jen Miller is in the back with Matt Cardona. And then next, we have tag team action, Kimberly and Susan, with the Knockouts champion, Deonna Purrazzo, in their corner. They defeat Jordan Grace and Jazz with some help from Purrazzo. And Johnny Bravo is in the back with Tommy Dreamer and AC Romero. And they confront Taya Valkyrie, and they say she really is the one who shot Johnny Bravo at the wedding between him and Rosemary. And she confessed that she shot him, said she didn't want the wedding to happen. She said he's not good enough for Rosemary. And that was just a way to write Taya off to television. So that kind of teased maybe her actually going to either WWE or AEW. So we will have to stay tuned to see where Taya Valkyrie ends up. And then we have another paid ad from AEW, Tony Schiavone, AEW owner Tony Khan, but this week he is joined by Jerry Lynn, and we find out that they are actually there at the Impact Zone, and they're gonna go ringside to watch the main event between Private Party and Chris Sabin and James Storm tonight. We see the Impact World Champion Rich Swann in the ring, and he calls out Moose the next challenger for his championship. And Swan says the reason he called him out to the ring tonight is because he's going to give him the world title shot right now. But Moose said that's going to happen on his time. And then Swan decks him, knocks him out of the ring. And so as of right now, we're not sure when that match is going to happen. I think it could happen on an episode of Impact before Rebellion, which takes place April 24th. There's been a lot of talk about maybe Omega getting a world title shot against Rich Swann. We will have to see what happens. Or if they take the title off Swann, put it on Moose. Brian Myers and Fallah Bahh. Myers gets poked in the eye while the referee is checking on him. He hits a low blow and a clothesline on Fallah Bahh to get the win. And the main event of the evening is up next. Private Party representing AEW with Matt Hardy in their corner and taking on Chris Sabin and James Storm. The finish of this match sees Jerry Lynn, who is at ringside with Tony Khan, get involved and grab the leg of Chris Sabin, causing a distraction. Private Party hits Gin and Juice, pick up the win, become the number one contenders for the Impact Wrestling World Championship. And once again, I'm definitely impressed with this working relationship from Impact and AEW. Definitely looking forward to see what happens next and what will happen next. We will have to find out tomorrow night. AEW Dynamite on TNT, which not promising anything, but I may have a recap of tomorrow's Dynamite up sometime soon. Not sure when, just have to stay tuned. The last few days haven't felt like doing the podcast for reasons, but now I might do a recap of Dynamite. Just have to wait and see, because if you listen regularly, you know I don't keep a schedule, don't have a set time, don't have a set day. Just whenever I feel like doing it, I do it. And that was Impact. Now let's get into a little bit of news. And WWE has released the official trailer for an upcoming documentary about Pat Patterson entitled My Way, which will be on the WWE Network, which should be very good. Definitely going to be checking that out. Also, Matt Riddle took a little shot at Goldberg, posting a photo with him with Gilbert, who appeared on Raw last night, with the fake Drew McIntyre that was a part of the Dirt Sheet segment with The Miz and John Morrison. And I can't think of his name right now, but the guy who played the fake Drew McIntyre is actually an actor. I didn't recognize him though, but he played Bernard in the first two Santa Claus movies with Tim Allen. I didn't recognize him. And it has been announced that Sting will be congratulating the TNT champion Darby Allin tomorrow night on Dynamite. And ODB has revealed that she is returning to Impact Wrestling. AEW has filed a trademark for Too Sweet. That's not really a surprise. WWE is advertising the returns of Drew McIntyre and Goldberg next week on Monday Night Raw. And that is just about it for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you for tuning in wherever you tuned in at tonight, whether it was on the live audio podcast on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, or anywhere else you can find podcasts. You can find 360 Wrestling Podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. And YouTube, like I talked about a little earlier in this episode, they changed their live stream setup. So instead of doing this as a live stream, and while I'm recording the podcast, I just decided to record the regular video and then upload it after. So as of right now, I really am not sure whether going to do the live streams anymore or not. Just might upload them, and then upload it to the YouTube channel. But I prefer just check out the audio version. That would probably be the easier way to listen to it. Then you won't have to see my ugly face. That's a good thing. And that's it for this episode. Once again, thank you. If you have any questions or comments, 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. And once again, if anybody's interested in being the co-host here on 360 Wrestling Fanatic, let me know that email, 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Also, Facebook, 360 Wrestling Podcast. Instagram, 360 Wrestling Podcast. Twitter, even though I don't use it, at 360 Wrestling Pod. And I think that's about it. Once again, thank you for tuning in today. Hope to be back soon. Until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.